You know how I love to read, Nick.
I sure do. Yeah, books are awesome. How many books would you say you read?
Oh gosh.
A year?
It used to be I read a lot more than I do today, but I would say I probably finish 10 to 12 a year.
Nice.
Yeah. I would say I probably average one a month.
Yeah.
Yep.
Leaders are readers.
Leaders are readers.
So what book are we talking about today?
The book we're talking about today is The Opposite of Spoiled by Ron Lieber, who is I believe he's New York Times. New York Times Your Money columnist, Ron Lieber. And I was really blown away by this book when I read it. It's raising kids who are grounded, generous, and smart about money. And when I read it, this is probably a handful of years old, maybe 2 or 3 years old. And he's got some really cool other books too. Taking Time Off, Inspiring Stories of Students who Enjoyed Successful Breaks from College. Upstart Startups, How 34 Young Entrepreneurs Overcame Youth Inexperience and Lack of Money to Create Thriving Businesses. Anyway, when I read it, I was intrigued because my kids were nearing the age of needing money.
Yeah.
And they were asking for it on the regular.
Yeah.
And so, number one, the title jumped out at me because I find that there's a number of students in the world today who really come across as spoiled.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
When did you read this? You said a couple years ago?
So I read this probably, I bet it was 3 years ago.
Okay.
3 or 4 years ago, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so what was the, I'm sure there were many takeaways, but what was the first takeaway that comes to mind around how you ended up raising your kids, especially when it came to, money?
Yeah. One of the things that, as you'll notice from the book jacket, there are 3 jars, a give, save, and spend jar on the book jacket. And we adopted this, and we kind of adopted it and then adapted it a little bit. We have a give, save, and invest jar. And then the 10% of their allowance goes into each of those jars, and then 70% is theirs to spend. And so when I read this, one of the things that I figured out is that kids who get everything they've ever wanted turn out as spoiled. Kids who realize that there is a limit to what is possible, or there are boundaries around what's acceptable for them to have, generally are not spoiled. He talked about work, the power of work for kids, and the sort of the necessity of teaching hard work, and that work translates to making money. That was important for young kids to understand. So just in general, there's so many great personal stories and anecdotes and things like that were really eye-opening for us.
Cool.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I've always had a particular affinity and interest in books about how to raise kids.
Yes.
Whether it's money or respect, just different cultures, how kids are brought up, because I think it's so powerful and influential to have these books and these types of conversations. I know you mentioned, why kids should work, and also how much to give as an allowance.
Yep.
What did the author say here?
So Lieber doesn't really give specifics on how much to give kids.
Okay.
And there's kind of there's a debate going on about, do you give $1 per year of age per week? Or is that fair? Because if in some families that's not possible, and in some families it wouldn't be enough based on what the kids' expenses are, right? Also, does it make sense for a 15-year-old to get more than a 12-year-old if they're doing the same kinds of activities? So he doesn't really go into that as much as say that it is important for them to have money and make decisions with money. And so, candidly, some of this book came out when I did my TED Talk at the London Business School. And it was all about why our kids needed to handle money and make decisions around money so that they knew what it was like to make decisions and essentially have money of their own to spend. Yeah. So here's what's kind of fascinating. My daughter has worked for the last 2 years. Both of my sons mow lawns, and they've made money, and they always have cash. My daughter bought her own car with our help. We said we would meet her in the middle, so whatever she saved we would match, and then she could buy a car. But I would venture to guess that 70% of her friends don't have vehicles. So they rely on her, but she pays her own gas. And so she started to say, I kind of feel like I'm getting taken advantage of. But in other families, what would happen is a car would be provided, the gas is paid for, there's never a question about it, right?
Yeah.
And at some level, I think we do kids a disservice by taking care of all of it and them not experiencing what it's like to actually have to make some money.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
You're going to have this, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like the opposite of spoiled would be responsible. Or one opposite of spoiled is responsible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. What else have you noticed about your kids around money? That Piper got that example. Is there any other examples that resonate for your boys?
Well, here's one interesting thing, that when we started doing some of the opposite of spoiled methodologies, if you will, the desires that they had changed because we had said, hey, you're going to get money, and then what you want is on you. So if you want to buy candy, well, that's fine. You can buy candy. You can't buy $20 worth of candy at once, right? Yeah. But if you want to do that, it's fine, within reason. And what they realized is that as they saved their money and they had more and more of it, particularly from babysitting and lawn mowing and whatnot, they could buy bigger things. So they weren't buying Nerf guns any longer. Now they're buying like GoPro cameras, and they're buying,
Nintendo Switches.
Nintendo Switches. Yeah, they're buying $200, $300 items.
Yep.
Now, it takes them a while to save up to get that, but once they do, they treat them differently.
Yeah.
If it was our stuff, the stuff would be, if we bought it, it may not be treated the same way, but it's theirs, and they're very conscious of what they spend their own money on.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's good.
Yeah. Any other takeaways or anything else that you want to share or have our listeners and watchers know about this book?
Here's the thing. If you are a parent and you are wanting to raise a child who is grounded and generous and smart with money, one of the things that you must do is you must empower your kids with money. So if you are paying for everything, like literally, if you are paying for every ice cream, if you are paying for every lunch, if you are paying for all the school supplies, if you are buying gifts for kids' friends for their birthdays, all of those things could be transferred to your kids to pay for. The money may still come from you, but it will go through them and they will make the decision because it is their decision to make. And once you empower them with those decisions to make, you'll be amazed at how much more responsible and decisive and conservative your kids are. Because one of the things we found, our kids are much less likely to spend their money than our money. So they're good about it. They will learn, and they'll learn quickly. They're sponges, but they need a really good coach, and that's what the parents should be there for.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. All good.
Yeah. Make sure you check out the book, The Opposite of Spoiled by Ron Lieber.
In the link below.
And, definitely interested to hear how you have applied these principles, or if you do apply them, what the outcomes are. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think this fulfills a bigger vision, which is when kids are responsible with their money and they grow into young adults and professionals, it really will impact the way the world works.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. 2 other resources that are out there for you. Number 1 is my TED Talk from the London Business School, which is also out on YouTube. We'll put the link down below as well. I am nearing the 4 million views mark.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a big deal.
4 million views.
So check that out. Help me get to 4 million. And then if that intrigues you, you can go to masteryofmoney.com, check out our courses link. And there is a course on there called Raising Kids Who Thrive with Money, where I go through in depth and in detail everything that we do with our kids, including the allowance program, what they do for chores, how much they get when they get it, et cetera, et cetera. So check out masteryofmoney.com, courses, Raising Kids Who Thrive with Money. All good stuff.
Yes.
Cool. And until next time, may you be blessed and abundant and have mastery of money.
Yes. That's great. Mastery of money.